Good afternoon, Dr. Cornwell.
Good afternoon, my friend. Good
It's
to
good
see
to
you.
see you as always as well. I have called the ability to be around your family, to touch and to see them and to experience them, one of the greatest American stories that I have had the opportunity to behold.
Thank you.
Obviously, the top of the organizational chart of the Cornwell organization is Dr. Cornwell II and Mrs. Shirley Cornwell. Can you tell me just a little bit about what it was like to grow up as the son of Edward and Shirley Cornwell and how they inspired you as a child?
Well, it clearly was a blessing. My parents' union uh, began on the campus of Howard University. My father was born in Columbia, South Carolina. Born in 1923, we actually, as a family, celebrated what would have been his 100th birthday last summer with a family reunion that I was pleased that you were able to attend. He grew up in the segregated South, and he actually, the son of a Southern Baptist minister, went to Benedict College, a small HBCU in South Carolina, and it was during his freshman year, December of 1941, that the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. He enlisted in the Navy at the end of his freshman year, and he would be in the Navy from that time on through 1945, through his discharge in 1945. When he gained admission to Howard University College of Medicine, entered in 1950, and graduated in 1954, class of 1954.
Yeah.
My mother was one of 8 children. Born in 1927, we will be celebrating her 97th birthday in a few weeks. She was among a very small minority of Black women, also born in that time, we now call it the greatest generation, who had an opportunity to go to college. Uh, Her schools in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where she grew up, uh, were integrated schools, and she went south to Tallahassee, Florida, the home of her grandparents, to attend Florida A&M University. That was in 1945. So in 1945 at Florida A&M, in that freshman class, she would meet a very precocious young freshman who had big plans in his head, and that was the 15-year-old Dr. LaSalle Leffall. She and my mom, Dr. Leffall, and my mother were freshman year classmates in 1945. He was 15 and she was 18. She would graduate in 4 years in 1949. Dr. Leffall was in a hurry. He graduated in 3 years, 1948, where he would then come to Howard University College of Medicine. My mother would come after her graduation in 1949 to work on the 1950 census, and was there where she met my father on the campus of Howard University. They got married in November of 1952. That union would bear 6 children, me and my 5 siblings, 3 boys and 3 girls. The tenets of our family life was very much about education. And
You're born in November 30th of 1956. Tell us where you were born specifically and why that has importance to you.
I was born in the hospital that was the predecessor of where I'm sitting right now. I'm sitting in Howard University Hospital. I was born in Freedman's Hospital. Freedman's Hospital started out as an encampment in the second year of the Abraham Lincoln administration. The Lincoln administration was not going to return runaway slaves who made their way to Washington, D.C. And so Freedman's encampment started out as a shelter, largely for just food and shelter for escaped slaves, so-called freedmen's.
When I look at your siblings, brothers and sisters, David, Terry, Patricia, Brenda, and Michael, all professionals in their own right. In sports we call that a loaded team. What was it like growing up in the Cornwell household with your siblings?
I can remember during my 6th grade year, when I was 11 years old in the 6th grade, uh, being the first boy. I have 2, Patty and Terry are my 2 older siblings. So I'm the 3rd child, the oldest boy, two younger brothers, David and Michael, a younger sister, Brenda. When I was coming through sixth grade, my mother, who really oversaw the details of what schools we went to, the choices we had, her explanation to me was that she wanted all of her children to be professionals.
All of us in the college clearly know Maggie and certainly know Michael as a cornerstone in your life and career. You and I talk all the time. Many times you on the West Coast, flying back to the East Coast to catch a game that Michael's playing in at McDonough or attend a PTA meeting. For the younger surgeons who may be watching this, tell us a little bit about how you achieved balance or didn't achieve balance, or what's the magic sauce or recipe to do it all.
That's a great question. Of the subspecialties in surgery, of course, trauma is the one that demands the greatest in-house presence. It's not a small consideration as well if you're raising a son, as Maggie and I did, um, in the sense that the school that Michael went to, there were several classes where he was one of only two or three in the early years black boys in his class. And given uh, my progression through my career as a trauma surgeon and greater presence in the discussion of things that lead to youth violence, I was fairly obsessed with being a presence at PTA meetings, parents meetings, school events, and certainly as a sports junkie and as a soccer dad, football dad, basketball dad, just from the sheer pleasure of it all, attending those events. And
Yeah. So you're at USC, and as you know, as a former chair, chairs have great influences on their faculty members and their residents and their medical students' lives. Tell me, how did Dr. Arthur Donovan influence you?
Dr. Donovan was an important figure in my life at that time, an academic surgeon at an extremely busy county hospital. Suggested you had to have the work ethic and the endurance that was necessary. At LA County, Dr. Donovan and really two other main surgeons that impacted our training, Dr. Tom Byrne, whose father, Clarence Byrne, CJ Byrne, was a former chair as well, and Dr. Al Yellen, a vascular surgeon. They all had their interests, but they all by necessity were trauma surgeons.
There, but you come back to Maryland shock trauma for your trauma fellowship, and tell me a little bit about your experiences there and how they would be memorable to you or influence you later on.
And coming back to shock trauma in Baltimore, Maryland Institution for Emergency Medical Services Systems, uh, kind of rounded out my training because they were getting blunt trauma patients from all over the state. It was a regional trauma system. And it made me spend a second year understanding EMS administration. Dr. Mean Ramsey was the state EMS director. I traveled with him around states, firehouses, county level 2 trauma centers, understanding that. Went with him to Annapolis for testimony about certain bills. Maryland was a state that prided itself on its trauma system.
So you complete what was outstanding general surgery trauma training between two hallowed institutions in this country, LA County and Maryland Shock Trauma. You start your faculty ranks at Howard University again, and within a few years, you're reunited back on the West Coast at USC at LA County. You are there with Dr. Demetriades, Dr. George Velmahos, Dr. Peter Reed, Juan Asensio, Dr. Byrne, Dr. Bellsberg. What was that like, and how did it inspire you and your career?
But from an academic standpoint, going back to USC, we're now Dr. Tom DeMeester is the chair, and with a focused approach on subspecialties, foregut, colorectal, hepatobiliary, trauma, critical care. Joining that team was important. Dr. Demetriades, as my division chief and mentor that recruited me back, and Tom Byrne, my senior mentor, was part of that team. Dr. Byrne was the vice chair, the head of clinical services of the county hospital. By this time, USC had a university hospital they had built as well. But within 2 blocks of each other. The extremes of life on that one medical campus, the university hospital versus the county hospital. But coming back there to the county hospital to focus on now the busiest trauma center where we had biostatistician involved in our research team, weekly conferences where we all discuss the papers we are working on. The next meeting, that would become a model for when I would become a division chief of our academic productivity, how we as a group maintain that internal collegial debate. It's helpful, by the way, being one of 6 kids.
You would be recruited to Baltimore, as you said. You'd come back and you serve as the chief of adult trauma at Hopkins for a decade. And you would rise from associate professor to full professor. I believe the third African American to achieve that rank in the Department of Surgery at the College of Medicine. What's it like to be recruited by Dr. Cameron?
Rightly or wrongly, Dr. Cameron said, the spotlight shines brightly on Hopkins. And so the things that you're trying to do, I was involved in violence prevention activities with social science colleagues there at USC. And Dr. Cameron accurately pointed out that those endeavors would gain acceleration being at Johns Hopkins, and he was absolutely right.
Yeah. And you would be a part of and witness another historical moment in American surgery. Dr. Julie Freischlag would become your chair. What did you learn from her from a leadership?
Dr. Freischlag inherited me as the chief of trauma. And yet again, just a great supporter of what I was trying to do. Had our we'd already had our first successful level 1 trauma center verification. We're going on to recruit members that were interested in careers in trauma, and with her support, we were able to recruit Dave Efron, who had completed his residency and fellowship there, as well as Otto Hader and Elliot Hout. Interestingly, Doctors Efron and Hout and I all are graduates of Brown University, something the Brown Alumni Monthly took note of once I recruited them. And Dr. Hader would be extremely important in my career with his interest and expertise in outcomes research, which would be the linchpin of our academic progress when I would later become recruited to be a chair.
In 2008, you were recruited back home to Howard University, where you become the LaSalle D. Leffall Jr. Professor of Surgery and Chair of the Department of Surgery and Surgeon-in-Chief of Howard University Hospital. Tell me a little bit about what it was like to come back to Howard, having been at Hopkins for 10 years.
It was yet another piece of fortuitous timing. By that time, when I'm coming back in 2008, a recruitment took place throughout the entirety of 2007. It was the right job at the right time. I knew that our academic productivity needed a boon, and my colleagues at Hopkins joined me, first Dave Chang, and then as an adjunct professor, Dr. Otto Hader, to set up our outcomes research enterprise that has been so important for our students, residents, and fellows, research fellows, to really develop our approach in the area of pursuing, and this was the theme of my discussions when I was being recruited to be a chair. We're going to pursue clinical and academic excellence around surgical diseases where outcome disparities existed.
What is the importance of the Department of Surgery at Howard University to American surgery?
You can't really tell the story of American surgery, the complete story of minorities in surgery without the story of Howard University. And so Friedman's Hospital and Howard University Department of Surgery becomes critical to the careers of those pioneers that laid the foundation for those who followed in my father's generation, my father and Dr. Leffall's generation.
Well, we have shared many great moments in that outstanding institution, and I think one of the finest moments that you were the architect of was the Festschrift for Dr. LaSalle D. Leffall. And I think one of the greatest memories I have is you sharing the story of the enthusiasm that Dr. Kirby Bland accepted, offered an invitation to publish those papers in the American Journal of Surgery, as he was the editor there. Talk a little bit about what inspired that great day and what your impressions are from it as a person who witnessed it as well.
Thank you for the opportunity to make me smile thinking about that day.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Leffall became chair in 1970, and one of his favorite Monday mornings, our Sentinel Monday morning event of the year, was the Drew FACS lecture that he established in 1970. This would be an opportunity for surgical colleagues from around the country, many of them from majority institutions, to come and get to know Howard. And as a medical student, as a resident training from outside of Howard who came to attend some of those as a faculty member, I would get to know these people. And one such person was Kirby Bland. Celebrating the writings of a university professor during their lifetime was a concept that thrilled me, having the opportunity to attend those of others. What a great opportunity for both students and residents to see that celebration of Dr. Leffall, who I would eulogize a couple years later in 2019.
In 2013, you were elected to be Secretary of the American College of Surgeons, a position that Dr. Leffall also held. Talk to me a little bit about what that meant for you.
I can remember the very first year. So for 6 of those years, you're carrying that mace. And the first year that I did it was in San Francisco. And for some reason there in the Moscone Center, those lights hung low and very hot. So we have our gown and our hood, and it's a warm day in October in San Francisco. It's cold in the summer in San Francisco, but it's warm in October in San Francisco. For those Mark Twain devotees might know that. But I'm marching in and I'm sweating like a stuck pig, Dr. Williams. And the only thing I can think of is Dr. Leffall did this for years.
Yes.
He's older than me.
Right.
Kathy Anderson did this for years. She's lighter than me. So I need to just suck it up and sweat and go get this thing done. And so we did.
2023 Clinical Congress, you're introduced as the Scudder Orator for the year, and you ascend that podium. It was an outstanding address, a great moment in trauma surgery and American surgery. Tell me your thoughts as you delivered that address.
That was a great opportunity. My whole family was there. So that's a great privilege because they're asking your opinion about the status of the way things are today. And it gave me an opportunity to give a little bit of my history that we've touched on today, with trauma as the vehicle, the barometer, the yardstick for equal care in America.
Well, sir, the words that come to my mind are the words of Dr. LaSalle D. Leffall, Jr., when he would echo the words of Sir William Osler. And that is on the great subject of work. It's the open sesame for all portals. It is the true equalizer in the world. It is the philosopher's stone that transmutes the base metal of humanity into gold. The stupid among you, it will make bright.
I love
The
that
bright
line.
among you, it will make brilliant. And the brilliant among you, it will make steady. With this magic word in your heart, you can achieve all things are possible. And without it, everything is mere vanity and vexation.
Absolutely.
Dr. Edward Eugene Cornwell, it is most obvious to this college that you have not only done the work, but you have done the work in a most remarkable way. Indeed, excellence of performance does transcend artificial barriers created by man. Congratulations for this high distinction, and thank you for your time this afternoon, as always.
Well, it's been a pleasure, my friend. You know I like quotations as well. And Dr. King said, awards, celebrations, and honors are something that everybody likes. You know, it's a vitamin E to our ego. He said nobody, double negative here, nobody doesn't like praise, even if they don't deserve it, and even if they don't believe it. So I don't know if I deserve it, Dr. Williams, and I don't know if I can even believe it. But I will work to justify that honor, and it's been a thrill to talk to you, and I appreciate you and everyone at the college who saw fit to bestow this honor upon me. Thanks, my friend.
You're welcome.